This conference will now be recorded.
Public hearing agenda, Wednesday, September 2, 2020. For the record, before we start, there is that we have a bunch of items here on old business. EC 18 2020, Jeffrey Brown, 26 Peach Hill Road, proposing grading activities related to a replacement house in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 6 as lot number 129. Okay, Rich?
I've received edits by email, and I can make those changes. They're mostly typos.
Okay. So there's nothing for the substance.
Not that unless someone has something else.
Is there any member that has something else that would like to? He has all the comments that have been emailed. Okay, Jonathan, may I have a motion to approve, Mr. Millard?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to move that the conditional approval be approved by our commission for 26 Peach Hill Road.
Susan McKenzie, do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Great, thank you. And then if there's no objection, I'd like to make that a unanimous approval for Peach Hill. Next item of business is EPC 19-2020, Raja Gupta, 2572 Boston Post Road, proposing pool and patio construction in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 54 as lot number 4.
I've received some edits on that also by email.
Okay.
Which I can incorporate.
Okay, so those have been incorporated. Anybody else have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, then Jim Millard, may I have a motion to approve EPC 19-2020?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional approval for 2572 Boston Post Road by our commission.
Great. Susan McKenzie, may I have a second?
Yes, I second the motion.
Okay, and then without objection, I'd like to approve EPC 19-2020. Okay, Rich?
That's fine.
Okay. Now moving to
before you start, do you just want to announce that the public hearing is not going to be held tonight? We're just going to.
Okay. I'm going to skip down to public hearing for a second in case anybody is here for that one. It's EPC 20-2020. Megan Thornton and Eric Romer, 29 Birch Road, proposing a pool house, and patio construction in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 11 as lot number 11. We've opened it, and it's been suggested that we immediately continue it to October 7th. So if anybody's here for that, I just had a couple of notes there, Rich.
Yeah.
Okay. The first is, I believe that there was an application in 2013 on 49 Birch.
For drainage, for a driveway and drainage.
For a driveway and drainage.
Yeah, same engineer.
Okay, there was a survey on there for the property, etc.
Yes.
And so I would like to get that. I'd like to make that part of the record, and like to distribute that to the commission members for the next, for the October 7th hearing. Okay, to as well. The second topic on this one is there any? I know that there's a building infraction on the site.
I've spoken to them about removing it.
Okay, is there any public information that the building office can convey to us?
No, it just needs to be removed. It can't conform. It can't conform by zoning. So there's no point in them even trying to get a building permit. So it's just going to need to be removed. And I've spoken to the owner and the architect about doing that. Immediately this month before the hearing.
Okay.
So that should be removed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
I
didn't realize
had some indication that you were reluctant to grant anything else until that was. So that will be. I was told that will be removed before the October hearing. So keep an eye on that.
That's all I have on the EPC 2020. Well, that'll be a public hearing October 7th. So if anybody's on for that one, that'll be moved. Okay. Do we want to go back to? Okay. Let's start with EPC 05-2020, Joe Pagliarulo, 49 Sunswick Road, proposing a 2-lot subdivision and related house construction, septic field construction, and filling and grading within an upland review area. The site is shown on Assessor's Map number 62 as lot number 25 and 28. The public hearing was closed on August 12th, 2020. Before I start the only people that will be permitted to speak will be commission members and Rich, because the public hearing was closed. So that's just set the ground rules here. I'd like to go into this because I've given this property a lot of thought, and I have well, a number of thoughts here before I start. Before I start, I would like to thank all parties for the enlightening and for the honest and enlightening conversations that have been had during these public hearings. I appreciate the time and effort all parties have put into these hearings. I would like to thank everyone who participated, particularly the neighbors, as I personally believe the more people who participate in government, the better it can respond. As wetland commissioners, we are tasked with weighing evidence gathered during the hearing process in order to determine that the proposed development activities propose no significant long-term negative effects to the wetlands and water courses. In essence, EPC provides an orderly process to balance the needs for economic growth of the state and the use of its land with the needs to protect the environment and ecology in order to forever guarantee to the people of the state the safety of such natural resources for their benefit and the enjoyment and for the benefit and enjoyment for generations yet unborn. I believe the commissioners of the town of Darien DPC recognize this responsibility. In this case, we have been asked to understand the effects of a potential subdivision of proposed buildings on the sublots of 49 Sunswick Road. Often as is the case, we tend to see experts who are very knowledgeable and experienced with Darien and its wetlands. Subdivista has helped numerous clients before our commission, and we rely on his expert, detailed, and conscientious testimony in our collaborative approach. This case was opened March 4th, was continued to April 1st, when no meeting was held, continued to May 6th, June 3rd, July 1st, and August 5th, when there was no meeting, was due to the Hurricane Isaias, and on August 12th. We are now on September 2nd, to weigh the evidence we have heard. During this period, we have lived and continue to live through the most incredible disruptions during this global pandemic and tropical storms, and our lives have been disrupted. I have been on this commission a long time, and this application is by far the longest in numbers of hours of testimony that I can remember. For a variety of factors, given the incredibly long application process, I believe the application had many deficiencies initially, and that only legal counsel was only brought in for the very last meeting. Perhaps due to COVID-19, I feel this application was not as parentheses cured as normal best applications usually are. I feel that given the complexity of this application, legal counsel could have been helpful in identifying and resolving issues, move this application along. This created questions and confusion and unnecessarily prolonged the hearing of this application. Rich, I want to thank you for your 2-page letter to the commissioners for giving us a framework to consider our deliberations. For me, as one commissioner, the application of 49 Sunswick breaks down into 2 questions. First, in my opinion, it has been determined and agreed by all parties that this property contains significant regulated areas. Can this property, which contains significant regulators, be subdivided into 2 parts so that 2 houses can be constructed on each part? I believe the answer is yes. Second question is to whether these 2 specific proposed houses with associated pool, coal taxes, and septic fields can be built on each lot. We've had 3 state licensed, highly respected engineers comment on the feasibilities of these 2 houses. All 3 civil engineers have presented before this commission in the past, and this commission holds them and their testimony in high regard. Clearly, there has been disagreement among the experts, and I'll advise the commission members that when there is one expert when there's one, according to Connecticut state law, when there's one expert, we must believe that expert. When there are two experts, and we have actually three in this case, okay, we, the commission members, are allowed to choose which civil engineer in this case has presented the facts and which one we believe. Okay. Personally, I started with having reviewed the evidence a number of times. I believe the starting point should be the Canis letter of July 29 and the divestiture response of July 30. I would like to thank Mr. Canis for his detailed response. I will focus on the point where there seems to be disagreement. On page 4 of the Canis letter, he suggested to increase the depth of the sumps to meet the definition of a deep sump catch. Mr. DeVesta disagreed and wanted to keep a more shallow depth of easier cleaning, trading off easier cleaning for capacity and efficiency. I agree with Mr. Canis, and my approval is contingent on adoption of Mr. Canis' suggestion. Second, pool location. Pool location is currently a placeholder. Okay, but all parties agree that the pool is located too close to the adjacent cul-de-sac. The applicant has not definitively stated the size, shape, or location where the pool would go. Hence, it cannot be approved until better defined. If the cul-de-sac in question is moved to accommodate a pool, the cul-de-sac is moved farther into the upland review area, the EPC would need to review that at a later date. Thirdly, as Mr. Canis suggests, last paragraph on page 7, the last sentence, basements should be made as small as possible to reduce the discharge volume of water and the amount of rock excavation. Mr. DeVesta agreed. However, no specifics were mentioned, which means that this item is left to be unacceptably ambiguous. The applicant needs to be much more specific before approval can be given. The final plan should follow Mr. Canis' recommendation. Further planting, I would like to see planting plans to create buffers around the regulated areas. These plans could be approved by staff. Okay.
There is a plan.
Okay. Then that's fine. Okay. Significant questions have been raised about the southern of the proposed house with the associated basement septic field, pool, and complexes. That provide a great difficulty in my approval. I will note that timely maintenance and complexes and septic systems are key to avoid any long-term negative implications for the neighbors who live downstream from this property. The applicant has proposed a maintenance plan. That said, it will be the future owners who bear the responsibility of this, and the downstream neighbors who bear the consequences. Currently, there is no enforcement mechanism to ensure that future owners perform this maintenance, and the downstream neighbors will pay the consequences. I should note that the applicant has proposed a significant amount of blasting, has proposed to create the full basements, swimming pools, etc. While this is not within the purview of this commission to regulate blasting, it is for state statute 22A-36 that the wetlands and watercourses are an interrelated web of nature, essential to the stability, essential to the adequate supply of surface and underground water, to hydrological stability and to control of flooding and erosion. I am concerned that the significant amount of proposed blasting, given the amount of granite and gradients on the property, could lead to unintended consequences, such as the rerouting and speeding up of unknown subsurface hydrological conditions to neighboring properties. It should be noted that one neighbor blasted several years ago, with the unintended consequence of rerouting to another neighbor's previously dry basement. Given the topological gradients on this property and actual previous experience, blasting is going to have to be analyzed very carefully in order to avoid any significant long-term consequences for the neighboring properties. I will note that there were a few issues with the site plan, such as the issue of a second pipe on the southern side, and that is an overflow from a pond, and the adjacent properties, which was not on the original map, unknown to the applicant. The applicant presented two alternatives for each proposed subdivision. I believe that there are other reasonable improvement alternatives which would permit the available building envelope to be adjusted in order to avoid avoid long-term effects on the inland wetlands and watercourses. For example, the applicant could have proposed a conservation development on the southern side of the regulated area, in which case the available building square would have been altered. Is this not reasonable and prudent? In our report to P&Z, Rich, I think we have a number of issues that have to be that planning and zoning have to address specifically. Okay. Okay. With that, I'm finished. And given our precedent, I will be going down through the list of commissioners, starting with Jim Millard, then to Susan McKenzie, Gunnar, Michael Kelly, and Bill Wright. Oh, Michael, you recused. That's right. No, that's right. Michael Urban is recused. Jim, would you like to comment?
I would, Eric. Thank you. I'd be pleased to comment. I, like you, have given this a lot of thought. The 49 Sunswick Road application, I've also, like you, had several. I'm trying to remember whether it was 4 or 5 site inspections, the last of which was the middle of the day, August 4th, right when that storm, Hurricane Isaiah, was coming in. And I was curious as to the volumes of water that might be generated by that storm in its early stages. For the record, there weren't a lot, but it was not even close to the peak of the impact of the storm. Like you, I thank Rich Jacobson for what, for me personally, and I imagine for some of the other commissioners, was a very helpful note and informative for me as a commissioner without an engineering training in this area as to what our EPC commission jurisdiction is, what we can think about, what we're allowed to consider or take into account as we pass judgment on this particular application, which you're also right, Eric, has been lengthy and lots of first-class expertise on both the applicant's side and the neighbor's side to carefully vet it and evaluate it. I found through the time in studying this and rereading lots of the notes, including Joe Cass's very helpful letter again to the non-engineer in me, that the experts, at least from an Environmental Protection Commission standpoint, in my mind, are showing to me that it can be built, it can be subdivided perhaps, but it is absolutely critical in my view, and I think you just touched on it as you were concluding, and it was the thought I arrived at before tonight's call started, was if we are to prepare an approval of any form tonight after our hearing, part of that approval to me with Rich Jacobson's help would be an insistent and very, very deliberate guidance to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their next level of evaluation to be sure that within their jurisdiction, which I know sits outside some of the things we're allowed to address and respond to, that the Planning and Zoning Commission be very, very insistent on not only the up-to-date plans showing all entry points of pipe and all of the basement levels in relation to pool locations and everything we've been hearing and talking about and trying to detail on the plans. I think I'm having a hard time with that word, extreme scrutiny has to be devoted by that good commission to further this, to further the consideration of 49 Sunswick, whether it should be subdivided. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you. Susan McKenzie?
Thanks, Eric. Just for the record, while wasn't able to participate in the meeting in August, I was able to watch the recording live. So I have similar concerns that echo Jim's and Eric's. This is a difficult property. It's a difficult project. A lot about this disturbs me. And also I'm grateful to Rich for his very clear guidance, and to Joe Canis, whose advice and I found very helpful throughout the 5-6 months this has been going on now. And I think at the end of the day, there is something here that can be approved. I feel somewhat constrained by what the town's regulations are, which is what dictates our decision, versus what some might argue as is best practice. And I think that we heard a lot of that over the past few months. But in the end of the day, we have to go with our own town's rules and regulations. Eric, I think you had a few good ideas for conditions that will be helpful. My concern also is, like, ongoing concern is about the maintenance and how do we enforce that? And perhaps that's something we can revisit as a commission for, our own sort of regulations and protocols going forward. But I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Susan Gunnar?
Okay, thank you. Not to go over, rehash everything that's already been said. I've been to the property 5 times, walked the property 5 times since we first started looking at this. I think the northern lot, which I believe is lot 2, seems to be okay. Lot 1, the southern lot, I have serious reservations about it. The existing property's been there for a long time, and you have a lot of wetlands, you have water flowing through there. Subdividing it, while maybe within maybe acceptable from a zoning point of view, I think the impact on the wetlands and the upland water review area by lot 1 is just too great to approve it as proposed right now. So I have serious reservations about this whole project, and I guess we'll just have to wait till we put it to a vote. But I'm very, very concerned, both as a commissioner, as a town resident, and as a longtime resident of the town of Darien. So I'm very, very concerned about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunnar. I'll skip Michael over because you recused yourself. Kelly?
Thanks, Eric. So first of all, I'd like to echo thanks to everyone who participated, especially to Rich for your guidance. I think this is one of those times that it becomes clear why there are more than one commission that rules and reviews cases like this, and a reminder to our commission about what our mandate is and what the law allows us to review. Because I share a lot of the same concerns. I live down the road. I live in Darien. I know the property well. And so I share the concerns about it being developed into 2 lots and the consequences of that. But for what is in front of the commission and what we're allowed to review and consider, I don't see that we have much of a choice but to approve, but with conditions. I, like Eric, don't think the pool has been shown that it can work. Yes, you can constantly move chess pieces around, but I haven't seen a final proposal that shows where all the chess pieces are going to fit. But I think they probably can make things work. I'm skeptical on the pool. The maintenance is a huge problem, and while council did suggest some agreements on how that can be constructed to create an obligation for maintenance, which I think is important, I am concerned that that will survive past the first owner. So I'd like to make sure that we have some pretty stringent maintenance included. And I do hope that planning and zoning will take into consideration extensively the blasting and the other impacts of the development. But that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Bill, right?
Yeah, I'm with Kelly. What we're allowed to review and consider, I believe we have to go with a allowed to subdivide. But I tell you, I have one other question, and maybe it's relevant, maybe it's not. With this neighborhood so environmentally sensitive, with the outcroppings, the drop-offs, the limited amount of soil, and all the neighbors very environmentally conscious, it bothers me that why isn't this neighborhood, and I'm not talking about this piece of property, is not hooked up to sewers after 50 years. I think everybody has a responsibility in these areas to be getting sewered, expensive as it might be, but it's one of the costs of living in these areas. And so I know it's not part of this, but I think it's a side part that we all ought to be thinking about, that everybody in that neighborhood should be on septics, not on septics and on our town sewer system. Side note. I'm done. Thanks.
Well, I think the whole calculation as to whether who should be on sewer up there, just given the topology and the granite that's up there, I can't imagine it would cost to put a sewer system, put sewers up there. But it's an interesting question, and I have a couple of friends on the sewer commission that I'm sure you'd love to talk to, because they go through this all day, every day, going through neighborhoods. Does it make sense? What's the amount? What's the assessment? What's the neighbor assessment, et cetera, to put in town sewer?
Yeah, and I think with a private road, I could be wrong, but I think they'd have to bring it to the sewer.
Yes, it's very clear that part of the Delafield Island Association, which controls the private roads there, would clearly have to propose that to the sewer commission, as opposed to digging along a public road. You can dig along Middlesex or Hoyt Street or something like that, and that belongs to the town. The private roads, in this case, the Delafield Island Association,
I think what I'm just adding in is that all the neighbors have a responsibility to some of this in some degree if they have the same issues on their own property.
Yep. Okay.
Eric.
Yes.
This is Jim. May I ask a favor to just add one further thought that both Susan and Kelly reminded me of?
Of course.
I remember in our August 12th meeting, I, like Susan tonight and Kelly, thank you both on the maintenance going forward. I think Kelly sums it up perfectly. I think the subsequent owners, the original owner, may not be as conscientious, perhaps, as this first owner might be. And I know that Rich, I think you said the town may not have an ideal tracking tickler, ledger system, reminder calendar system, whatever the right word is, to insist on that. I think in our earlier meetings, we talked of a 6-month, twice a year maintenance of these complicated systems that are being proposed to be installed. So I think, again, I think it was Kelly, perhaps it was Susan that said, and I think I even mentioned this on August 12th, this to me is an opportunity to find and create that system so that for the future, we have a platform. This is not hard stuff to schedule and have a tickler. And I think the onus, again, I don't know how it's enforced. We're going to have to spend more time on that. But I would like to echo Kelly and Susan's comments tonight that I think it's imperative that we, as part of any conditions, that the maintenance plan and its regular and active engagement, it takes place. Thank you, Eric.
Jim, thank you. I have some information on COPEC maintenance that I'm going to share under other business, and that I'll be adding an item to the October agenda where we talk about Tech maintenance and things. And I'll read what I have then, okay, because I don't want to get too off topic. But I think that I think it's universally agreed here that the Tech maintenance here and septic system maintenance is absolutely critical.
Thank you.
Rich, when you very clearly, this is going to be a difficult one to write up. I'd like to write it up with you. Why don't you write a draft, and then you and I
I'll
can
send
go
you a
over
draft. I'd be
it.
happy to.
And then
send
you and I
a
can
draft.
go maybe do a few iterations of this one.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay,
So
on our
you're not-
report, because we have to, because literally what we do is we write a report to planning and zoning on this one, and because planning and zoning, I'm not sure when they'll be taking it up. But
We can talk about doing that as part of the decision and a separate memo. We can discuss that, or to become part of the decision. We can talk about that.
okay, well,
You can do it separate.
I remember talking to Jeremy about this, and they said about the what Jeremy said was that they were expecting a report.
Yeah, and in the past, you've usually, they consider your decision report.
Okay.
But in this case, you have things that you want to go beyond,
Yes.
possibly beyond wetland issues.
Yes.
In which case, we could do a separate memo.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. You always have the right to comment to them beyond
Beyond scope.
beyond the scope of the
EPC. Okay.
And we have done
But
it. We have written memos to planning and zoning
Yep.
for that. I
Yes.
think we should do in this case.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it'll be when Rich and I work on the various parts of this draft, I think, we'll be distributed out to the commission members for, because I know that many of you are excellent, much better writers than I am. So on this, smile, Jim Millard, smile, Kelly. So because this will be probably one of the more difficult ones we write up.
Okay. My goal would be to get a draft to you sometime by the end of next week.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great.
That's great. Okay, what do we need? What else, Rich?
Are you going to do anything else with this? No, you're definitely at the vote. So.
Okay, so we're going to be moving on now to new business, EPC 22-2020, Margaret Minor, 46 Ridge Acres Road, proposing pond dredging. The site is shown on assessor's map number 4 as lot number 57. Okay, I believe everybody has the package there. And Rich,
I don't know.
the applicant.
Well, I don't think so. Rich Windels has dredged a significant number of ponds in town over the years. He has a suction method that he uses. This is a fairly small pond. And, he had asked me if it could be considered maintenance, and it was more than I would say is maintenance. So it needed a permit.
Yeah.
Which is why it's tonight. So I mean, you can't vote on it tonight, but I would say.
Well, I'd like to get him to describe what he's going to do better.
Well, I don't. I think what he submitted in writing is going to be what you're going to get. Yeah.
Okay, because what's he going to do with the sediment?
I'm not going to ask him, but you typically they take it off site.
Oh,
In a small property like this. You
no,
can make
I
that a
understand he's going to take it off site.
I'll double check.
He's going to, what I'd like to know is the details of,
They put it
he's
in.
going to come up to someplace in Sheldon and dump it. Or, there's a special place that's like pond sediment, in wherever, and just to get some sort of.
Well,
Eric,
normally I don't investigate where it goes beyond Darien. I
Okay.
don't think it's contaminated in any way.
No, I don't think it's contaminated either, but I just want to make sure if he's going to dump it in
I
Darien
know he
somewhere.
has a landscape contractor who's also involved, who was hired, got involved and hired Rich for the owner. And
Eric,
he may
Eric,
have some ideas if they're just going to take it off site.
Yes.
It's clean fill, I think.
Eric, to your question, this is Jim.
You want
Yes, Jim.
It does say in the package that circulated with notes provided by Northeast Pond Restoration Services that the extracted, it's end of paragraph 1, that the extracted sediment will be loaded onto a special sediment trailer and disposed at a licensed yard in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I forgot that. He puts it into a lined container, so it doesn't have to be dewatered, and then it's hauled off. That's his method.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions for? I mean, Rich is acting as the applicant in this instance, answering questions anyway.
I can always ask someone else.
I have no questions. I think, as you know, Rich and Eric and maybe others, I live right up very near to Ridge Acres and actually walk through there often. And I went to this site before traveling. I'm out of town right now. And it looks to be a very straightforward project to me. And if with a professional dredging company, and I believe Mr. Wendell's might meet that description, to me, I had no real issues with the application. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I guess, Rich, you want to write that one up?
I'll write this.
Okay. Moving on to agent approvals. No action is necessary unless the commission receives an appeal of the approval within 15 days of the publication date per section 1212 of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations. EPC 21-2020. Andre Mathieu, excuse me for pronouncing that wrong, of 494 Mansfield Avenue, proposing fence installation in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 20 as lot number 22. Anybody have any questions for Rich?
No.
No? Any other? Well, okay. Moving on, EPC 23-2020, Jeffrey Berenger, 36 Beach Drive, proposing spa and terrace construction in an upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 53 as lot number 3 and 4. Do the commission members have able to review that and have any questions for Rich?
None for me.
None? Okay. EPC 24-2020, Andres Patros, excuse me for mispronouncing that. A 12 Scout Trail, proposing removing a garage and pavement and construction of a house addition within the upland review area. The site is shown on assessor's map number 20. That's lot number 22. Rich, this is a net improvement in pervious surface.
Correct.
In pervious
Work
surface.
within your upland review
Yeah.
area. Yes.
Okay. This is good. All right. Anybody else have anybody else have anything there to?
No, sir.
Question, Rich on? No? Okay. Other business. We get the request for permit time extension to construct a swimming pool, EPC 29-2015, 40 Hanson Road LLC, 40 Hanson Road. New expiration date will be September 2, 2025. Do we need to vote on that, Rich?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that's an issue, right? There's no.
No, that was a new house that was built. They just delayed building.
That was on the right, with the very modern house, right?
It's on the opposite side of the golf course.
It's the opposite side, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we approved that at the time. I remember that.
Yeah, the wetland restoration is beautiful.
It's amazing, the wetland
It's
restoration.
actually in very good shape.
Yeah. I hope everybody's seen that house because the wetland restoration, it's on the south side of Weaver Golf Course. So it's pretty amazing what they've done there. Instead of having grass all over the place, what they have lots of interesting plantings. So I will need a motion, Mr. Millard, to approve, to remove the permit time extension for EPC 29-2015.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application under EPC 29-2015 for 40 Hanson Road.
Susan McKenzie, may I have a second?
I second the motion.
Sure. Without objection, I'd like to have this approved unanimously. Okay, Rich. Under other business here, I have something called Coltech maintenance. People have brought it up. It came up in the August 12th meeting, and say during the public hearing on 49 Sunswick Road, subject came on the maintenance of Coltexes. More specifically on the fact that if these Coltexes are not maintained properly, they become relatively useless in their function to retain and dissipate water runoff, thus negating their function. Their maintenance is critical to avoid water runoff problems downstream. The town of Greenwich has taken an interesting approach that I would like to discuss with the commission next month. I will send to Rich the packet which they have on what they actually have implemented. And I believe you'll find this interesting. I don't know if it's appropriate for Darien, but it's more information than we had before on implementing this. And so, Rich, I'll give it to you, and if you can put that as part of the packet.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Okay, I have another question, Rich, is related to this. Going forward, I was wondering if it's possible to change the EPC application to ask applicants if they have Coltexes to show that they're properly maintaining them.
Well, going forward and after the application's approved.
No, it's saying is they apply,
Right.
and if they have a Coltex on their property.
Oh, existing Coltex?
Exactly, because right now the whole issue of I don't know how many Coltexes are in Darien, but I don't think Planning and Zoning Building Office is prepared to handle that kind of process at this new process. Okay, at this point,
we could do that.
But each application that comes in,
if they already have,
if they have a Coltex, we could request them to say, hey, as one of the things, do you have a Coltex on your property? And because we can verify that with the building office, and Planning and Zoning would have that as part of their building records to say, hey, show me that you're maintaining your Coltex. Because if they're not maintaining their Coltex, we have to take a different tack. We have to take a different tack with the applicant at that point in time, because we know that the Coltex is not doing its job.
Well, as you mentioned, that kind of goes along with what Joe Canis had said. Some towns, in addition to filing it on the land records, they have a condition the owner has to keep a maintenance log.
Yes.
That they produce.
Yes.
So we could make that. We could do that going forward.
Yes.
I can't think of too many where they already had Coltex and now they're asking for more, but it probably happens. But as far as long-term enforcement, Joe had also mentioned that some towns have an ordinance of against illicit discharges. So if you have a system that wasn't maintained and now it's causing a problem, you could go in and tell them you've got to remedy.
No, absolutely, but that's I feel sorry for the people downstream.
That's something different, but
because if somebody's downstream, they can come into town and go, the issue I'm flooding because the person upstream Coltex is not functioning properly. Can you order him to do it? Okay, but that's very after the the horse is out of the barn.
Sure.
And it's not the Coltex is not doing its job. Okay, and so what I want to do is encourage. These Coltexes are expensive, and we're requiring them to put in as part of the new construction and things like that. But we have no issue to get them. How do I make sure they're being worked? Well, that's a whole process that I'm going to start in October and get the discussion here.
Let's see what.
But let's see what Greenwich has, and then my offset was, can we, when the next EPC, whatever it is, new application comes in, ask them to say, do you have Coltexes? Do you maintain it?
Right.
Okay, and so And, can you provide proof that you maintain it? Okay, because I know a few people in town that have the knowledge and expertise to maintain a Protex. Okay, the vast majority in town,
Yeah.
okay, don't have a clue. Don't have a clue and would have to get it done professionally.
Yeah.
Okay, and so therefore they would have a receipt because they would have paid the individual. They would probably have a report from the guy who cleans it out, and that says, hey, your Coltex was clean, something was dirty, et cetera, et cetera. And that would provide evidence that the Coltex, at least from that point on, would be functioning.
I don't know where this is Michael. I don't know if we're officially having a conversation about this, but this is going to be a very, I'm not sure what the end result that we're looking to jump into stormwater management maintenance. We're talking about who's going to enforce maintenance, who's going to prove that items are being, or systems are being maintained. When there's a problem, who's the agency that makes said neighbor or applicant responsible for curing the problem? And I just kind of noted three things that just jumped out at me, but I want to jump back in case anybody doesn't know how a Coltex system is maintained. It is a fairly inert item once you put it in the ground. So it's really a light switch. It's either working or it is not working. And I believe Public Works would be involved in this. And I also just want to jump out that this is a huge, whatever we would be proposing, whether it's zoning or EPC on an ad hoc EPC basis, that this would be an immense undertaking to manage that piece. However, currently, when you have a Coltech installed on your property or a stormwater management system, you do have to file with the land records that you will maintain, and individual homeowners are responsible for maintaining the systems year to year or on a continual basis. So I feel like the genesis of this conversation is receiving applications with extraordinarily complicated stormwater management systems, where me as a non-expert are skeptical of the performance of the system. And now we're retroactively saying, hey, let's have a policy in place to police the performance of the systems. And as commissioners, I think it's our duty, this is where our job comes into place, is to question the performance of the system, and not retroactively say, okay, well, an engineer said it'll work. We're skeptical, so we're going to have a backstop, which is going to be future maintenance. I think from and I'll leave you with this, and I apologize, it's a little bit all over the place. We just had an application where I recused myself, and I believe the engineer had stipulated there would not be sump pumps in the basement.
Yeah.
And I was a little skeptical that at some point a sump pump may make itself in the basement. We just recently had an application where there's 8-inch Coltex adjacent to the wetlands, and the land on that property is going to be, or the land above, or the grade above 8-inch Coltex is going to be used as a soccer field. You scratch your head on those things. So my quick response to that is, well, why don't we just deal with some of these things head on and actually form a vote and approve or deny the application based on the design, or make the design more stringent. Once you stick concrete galleys or Coltex in the ground, you have a particle separator and a storm drain. The storm drain will catch most of the silt and the debris. The particle separator will catch what the storm drain doesn't, and the Coltex are the holes in the ground that collect the water. There isn't much maintenance. The only maintenance is really is not maintenance, it's when the system fails. And then the neighbor is going to be proactive, or the owner, the applicant is going to be proactive about that Coltex system, because their garage, their basement, or their yard is going to turn into a swimming pool because all the water coming off the leaders of their home or wherever the water is being collected is no longer going into those Coltex. So I don't know where we start with this, but I guess my piece is we have a process in place. I don't know whether this commission has had a lot of people that have come for new work and with existing systems that are non-performing, and then we're proposing to have additional regulations to future-proof approvals, future-proof applications that are coming before the commission. As a taxpayer, a developer, a builder, a homeowner with a system, I'm not sure, just to cut this short, I'm not sure I would be in favor of that.
All right.
I think proactively being a commissioner on the EPC,
because I will point out, I read the article on the town of Greenwich, what town of Greenwich is doing, and it was it was an interesting approach. And so, and I know you're very familiar with Greenwich, and so and with their issues, because they were saying that 50%, and if I recall the article correctly, that 50% of Coltexes were failing in the town of Greenwich. And you go, wow, that's a lot. And we as EPC are relying upon these to infiltrate water and from impervious surfaces. And so if I don't know if it's 50%, I don't know what the right number is, but if they are failing and failing to perform their function, then as EPC we've got to take a different look at it, like you're suggesting. Okay. All right. But anyway, it's an item, and we'll continue this on October 7th.
I think our October 7th meeting will have a very healthy discussion on this. And I think what I'm hearing, because of Michael's clear expertise in these installations and using one perhaps in his own home, that he should be the author of the operating manual for how this might work.
He declared himself a non-expert. Okay. Anyway, and that's what I had to say about that. Let me see. Moving on, let me get my glasses here. The minutes of August 12th, 2020. Did anybody have any modifications?
I do have corrections. Which were emailed.
Okay. So we can approve them?
Well, yeah, if the commission, unless they have something else.
Is there anybody else who would like to modify the minutes of August 12th?
Well, page 3, the second paragraph, says hold a public hearing as in the public interest. I think there's one too many.
Yeah, I think I got that one.
Yeah, he got that.
That's the only thing.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Okay. With that, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th? Mr. Millard.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve our August 12th, 2020 Environmental Protection Commission minutes from that meeting.
Susan McKenzie, may I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, without, I think it's unanimous. So without objection, we'll approve that, Rich.
Yep.
And then I guess there's no other business.
Motion to adjourn.
So I have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Millard.
I'm happy to make a motion to adjourn tonight's Environmental Protection Commission hearing.
Thank you, Jim. Susan? Susan?
I second to adjourn.
Thank you. Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Fred, thank you very much for hosting.